evening and a very warm welcome. Rarely has any one debate polarized the country as the debate around urban Naxals. The Pune police sweeping in, arresting 5 activists. Are these half Maoist urban Naxals, or are they civil rights activists who are fighting for the downtrodden and an oppressive state is coming after them? Joining us on the big India Today roundtable, I want to introduce, I'll start from Prakash Singh, former Director General of Police, a very respected police officer. Flanking him is Gaurav Vallabh, he's a spokesperson of the Congress party. Arun Anand is a journalist, he's joining us in our studios. RP Singh is a National Secretary with the Bharatiya Janata Party. Desh Ratan Nigam is a lawyer, works very closely with the RSS. Shoma Chaudhary has written a lot on Naxalism and is rather aghast with some of these arrests. Also with us, KTS Tulsi, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court. Last but not least, Professor Bharat Gupta, he is an academician. I want to start by showing you what happened in the Supreme Court, where an urgent plea was moved by some senior lawyers saying that the Modi government was clamping dissent. The matter was heard at 3:45 p.m. In the end, the arrests were put on stay. They will not be jailed. In fact, they'll be at home till the 6th of September, which is when the next hearing comes up. This is a bit of a wrap for the Pune police. Their arrest not overturned just yet, but the Pune police told they cannot jail them. Instead, all these urban Naxals, half Maoists or intellectual civil rights activists, call them what you will, they will be at home. Here's the story.
Dissent is the safety valve of democracy. If you don't allow these safety valves, it will burst. 5 activists to be kept under house arrest till September 5th. The Supreme Court coming down hard on the Maharashtra government, defending the right to dissent and putting Pune police's demand for custody of the 5 arrested activists on hold.
Court issued notice to the governments, to the state government of Maharashtra, to the central government to respond to this petition. They have listed the petition next Thursday, and meanwhile they have said that those persons who have been arrested should not be taken into custody, should be, if at most they can be placed under house arrest.
This even as Delhi High Court questioned the Pune police over the arrest of journalist and activist Gautam Navlakha. The court said that the charges are serious and the police have to justify the charges. In Pune, the police tried to justify the arrest in a local court, claiming the suspects were linked to Maoists. The police added that the accused are involved in arranging funds for the Naxals.
The evidence found traces back the involvement of Kabir Kala Manch and the arrested accused in mobilization of funds provided by band outfit CPI Maoists in inciting the masses against administration from long before the Elgar Parishad was held.
On the political front, Congress has questioned the arrest of the rights activists while the government is sticking to its guns.
There are 2 different visions of India. One is a centralized vision and the other is a decentralized vision. One respects only one ideology based out of Nagpur, and the other respects all the different states, all the different ideas, all the different cultures, all the different people in this country.
Mr. Rahul Gandhi, I want to send a strong message to you. The BJP wants to ask you. Naxals are Naxals when you arrest them, but they are human rights activists when we arrest them.
The Supreme Court's interim relief for the accused comes as a big setback for the Maharashtra government. With the next hearing now slated for September 6th, the big question is, can the police prove their allegations in court? With Ashutosh Mishra, Pooja Shali, Divyesh Singh and Pankaj Khelkar, Bureau Report, India Today.
So there are 2 equally strongly held points of view. One part of all our viewers tonight feeling very strongly that this is a much needed, very belated clampdown on these urban Naxals who for the longest time have been in touch with comrades out in the jungle, supporting them, motivating them, ideologically guiding them, sometimes involved in even more devious activities. On the other side, you've got a group of people who feel that this is gross overreach, that there isn't enough evidence that's been put out, and the Modi government is acting in an authoritarian fashion, clamping against dissenters. I want to start with Shoma Chaudhary first, because there's a vast majority of people watching this broadcast who will feel that this is good. Finally, some government is going after these characters. They have been in touch with Naxals the longest time. They've been guiding Naxals, motivating them. At least some of these activists who've been arrested, and this has been known. They've been in and out of jail. And if the government is going after them, like it went after the Hurriyat in Kashmir, this is a good thing. At some point in time, the cat needs to be bed.
So Rahul, the first thing I'd say is that, activists per se, civil rights activists, are a safety valve of democracy. They speak for the disenfranchised. Because of them, they're a conduit for the voices of the poor. In fact, it keeps our society safe because the most marginal people feel that they can access the state, access democracy through these intermediaries. So I think, first of all, it is very important to have those who challenge the government, who speak through constitutional rights. To my knowledge, most of these activists, I don't know some of them personally, but say for instance Sudha Bhardwaj has a long history of speaking up for constitutional values. She has spoken for the dispossessed. So when you in a sweeping way say that they are urban Naxals who have been guiding, I would like to see evidence of that. That's number one. Number two is that the law says that you have to be involved in a particular act of violence. As of now, there doesn't seem to be any evidence that these activists have been involved in instigating any violence.
Respond to that. They may have a point of view that is contrarian, a point of view that is at variance with that of the ruling establishment. It doesn't mean that there are terrorists. It doesn't mean that they're inciting violence. Where is the proof to be able to back it? Take Sudha Bhardwaj, for example. She was born and brought up in the United States, studied in the United Kingdom, gave up her citizenship at the age of 18 to be in India and work in places like Chhattisgarh, working with laborers, working with trade union activists. To call her an urban Naxal, many believe, is grossly wrong.
Do you remember the name Sai Baba? He was a professor here. He was raided in 2013, later on arrested in May 2014. Very well educated person, handicapped, but working as ideology.
So two of the people who've been arrested, for the example that you cite, I can cite the example of Gonzalez of Ferreira, who also were arrested in 2007 but ultimately had to be let go of because the police couldn't prove its case in a court of law.
Well, that time government took action and now again the government has taken action. Earlier also, your channel has also exposed a lot of people in Kashmir who were arrested by NIA, was earlier arrested and let off. But now they are not being let off because there is a foolproof case against them. But there are three type of people. One who are doing groundwork by using guns and triggers and hitting people. There are people who are doing intellectual cover-up. There are a lot of who are doing it even in courts for that regard. And there are people who are giving ideological support. I treat this lot as people who
okay, because Katie has told, see, the one thing that's being cited again and again is at least two of these activists have been arrested in the past. They were tried. There was no evidence found, they were let go of. RP Singh interestingly cites the India Today case study where we investigated the Hurriyat conference. 7 leaders locked up. Earlier they were let go of because the UPA government could prove the case. He's saying we'll be different. We've done our investigation. We've got solid evidence against them. There's no way they're coming out.
What is solid evidence? Merely delivering a speech is not sedition. Merely writing something about the constitutional rights of these marginalized people isn't sedition. When are they going to learn the law? Supreme Court has times out of number said that even delivering a speech, a very provocative speech, it doesn't amount to sedition. Unless you ask people to take to arms. These people are trying to bring them over ground. Gandhiji said, crime, the biggest crime is poverty. Poverty is the biggest crime. And what is the crime of these people?
Correct.
They are trying to become the advocates of these people.
Now see what happened in the case of Kanhaiya Kumar. A whole spectre was built up that here's someone who's anti-national, he's wanting to tear apart the constitution, break up a country. In the end, the police couldn't even file a charge sheet because they realized that the charges that they were leveling, this was a highly publicized case, and naturally, given everything that the BJP top leadership had said about him, they would have wanted him behind bars. 2 years later, the Delhi police couldn't file a charge sheet because they didn't have evidence against him. Now you're making it out to seem as if these people are urban Naxals, half Maoists. Where is the evidence against them?
So let us be very clear. We are discussing this case. Kanhaiya Kumar case is still in court. I am not going to...
There's no charge sheet.
No. Whether it is there or not, it is going to come. They may take their own time. Sweet will. It is up to the police. So the matter is still in court. Let me speak about this. The case against them relates to Bhima Koregaon violence and the Prime Minister's assassination plot. It is not
No, the
about
Pune police did not say that today. The Pune police today said that these are people who've been arrested because of the Yelgar Parishad, the violence in Bhima Koregaon. And at one point, the DCP in the end of the press conference says that they were planning to target some senior political leaders of the country. He hasn't linked these arrests with, no, one second, because the arrests in June were directly linked to a supposed plot to assassinate the Prime Minister. This time, let's try and distinguish between the two. That is not what is at play. It's the violence in Bhima Koregaon, the Dalit uprising, where there was violence, where they believe that these people
the larger plot is being investigated here. Both Prime Ministers, this thing, and the Naxalism and Maoism, which is a violent philosophy which wants to uproot the constitutionally elected governments in India by sheer use of violence. That is their philosophy. Very plain and
no, so Gautam, Navlakha, Sudha,
let me come to
these people look violent.
There are foot soldiers and there are people hidden behind the curtain. These are the people who are hidden behind the curtain and are being investigated. And if they are being arrested, they are being produced in court, they are going through due process of law. It is not sedition, as Ms. Tulsi was saying, it is not about sedition here. Right now, maybe these charges come up during the investigation, I don't know. But the fact remains, please. But the fact remains, the due process of law is going on, and to say that they have got some relief from the Supreme Court, no. Instead of them being sent to the jail, their house has been converted into a jail. Please remember, they are under arrest. Although in a house arrest, rather than being sent to the jail, their house has been converted into a jail.
Which is much better than being in jail.
No, it's not being better, but it's a jail.
It's the
just because you are having
taken to this.
Just because you are having a cold water.
I don't remember any other case.
Time in house arrest.
No, one second. I want to
just because you are having a refrigerated water in your own house does not change the nature of the arrest. You are still under arrest.
You've been a police officer your whole life. You see the evidence that's in the public domain. Does the Pune police have adequate evidence to establish that these people are Naxals? Or do you think that this is a case of the police going too far on the part of a government that's trying to repress voices of dissent?
Look, Mr. Kanwal, I think we seem to be under an impression that everything is in the public domain, which it is not. See, what evidence they have collected over a period of last 7 months is neither known to you, nor to me, nor is it in the public domain. Maybe some statement has been made by Pune Police, Deputy Commissioner or outgoing Commissioner. They have made some statement. One outgoing Commissioner has said that there is enough documentary and other incriminating evidence to nail these people. That is what he has said. But he cannot go into the details of the evidence collected at this stage. I mean, he will not do it. He was bound by, the secrecy of the investigation has to be maintained. Of course, many things get leaked out even otherwise. That's a different matter.
Look at the letter that we had, which is in the public domain. A letter supposedly seized from the computer of a urban comrade, where he is saying, let's do a Kashmir-style activity. Let's try and assassinate the Prime Minister. Now, one second.
Rahul,
you've been a serious police officer. Does any genuine Maoist write a letter to a comrade using actual names, using AK-47 in the body copy, saying 3 lakh rounds of ammunition, let's do a Kashmir-style attack here, let's assassinate him like Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated.
Look,
he's getting too popular, he's a threat to ideology. Who writes all of this in letters?
Look, I have not seen the letter, and let us not make too much of that letter. That letter is probably the starting point. And from that letter, maybe they went on and collected other evidence. Look, I hold no brief for the police, but I'm only hoping that they have collected enough evidence to arrest these people. But what that evidence is, none of us know, nor does Mr. Tulsi know. And whatever speech...
In Akshar Khan case, the Supreme Court held that the letters were fabricated. Letters which were alleged to have been recovered from the pocket of the terrorist.
That's a separate case.
Okay, let Bharat Gupta come in. I want to maintain some decorum. Now, my whole idea of doing the India Today roundtable is that we try and make sense, not just noise. It shouldn't just be empty noise. Let's have a meaningful conversation so that people who are debating this at home see sharp analysis and perspective. Bharat, one at a time, please. Bharat Gupta.
I think we should not confuse the issues. Primarily, it is on the onus is on the police to prove the crime, but that will be done in the course of law, and there is no point in discussing
the evidence or the shreds of evidence that we have now. One, I think it has become a battle of narrative. On one side you have the narrative that yes, these are urban Naxals and they have committed the crime. On the other side we have the narrative that people who are writers, who are sympathizers, who work for the poor, who work for the downtrodden, they can get away with everything. You see,
no, but it's not only about narrative.
Just a minute.
Professor Bhargava, one second. If
Yes.
Kanhaiya Kumar was about narrative, 2 years later, if no charge sheet is filed, questions will be asked. You can't just spin it one way or the other. You have to back your charge with evidence.
No, that case is still going on. And as a matter of fact, can I finish? Yes. Now, this whole narrative which is coming about is that people who go and work with Naxals, look, are we forgetting history? I went to St. Stephen's College in 1968. People were coming and they created 45 students and they sent them to Naxal Badi. And the Congress and the CPM butchered them all. It's a matter of convenience. Now, just a minute, let me complete. So let us not, just a minute, sir. Let us not get caught in the narrative. First of all, we have to get us out of the narrative. Either the narrative of sympathy for those who are writers,
or butcher them.
Or
it's not a question of them being writers,
okay.
sir.
Yes,
I haven't heard
is.
from Gaurav Vallabh so far. Where does the Congress stand on this, especially in the context of Manmohan Singh saying that Naxalism and Maoism is the single biggest threat to India's national security? And in such a situation, if some of these intellectuals, or all of these intellectuals are in direct touch with Naxals, advising them, guiding them, as some intercepts seem to suggest, that is deeply disturbing.
Rahul, I am asking, if somebody is in touch with Naxal, is going to be coined as a Naxal? I am having a serious reservation on that term.
No, why should somebody be in touch with somebody who's picked up the gun against
how
the
I
state?
can complete if you will counter question. I am just asking, somebody coining the word urban Naxal. I had a serious reservation on this word. Somebody says tukde, semi-urban Naxals, village Naxals. What is this all about? Problem is that there are two issues we have to understand. First, are they involved in any conspiracy against the Prime Minister? Prima facie, that is not there. In the court today, in the High Court, they are not able to prove that, and that is the reason the decisions were there for the house arrest. First thing. Second thing. Please let me complete. Please let me complete, sir. I had not interrupted in between you. Second thing, when you are saying that they are involved in Bhima Koregaon, you know who are involved in Bhima Koregaon? There are two gentlemen. Their name is Sambhaji Bhide and Milind Ekbote. What government had done? Maharashtra, Pune police were having intelligence inputs against them. They gave those intelligence inputs to the Maharashtra administration and government. What they did? They were seeing the things with the folded hands. If they want to do anything for the Bhima Koregaon episode, why they were not able to arrest?
Okay, so I want to build on what Gaurav Vallabh
What
says.
happened to Mr. Ekbote?
He says that being in touch with Naxals is no crime. Is it not? Let's take a terrorist in Jammu and Kashmir. He's picked up a gun against the Indian state, is wanting to break apart our country, set up a separate Kashmir. We'd not say for a second that being in touch with terrorists or aiding them, guiding them, ideologically helping them is okay. So
there is a difference between ideological help and there is a difference.
So it's okay if somebody is ideologically helping a Kashmiri terrorist?
Rahul, I had never mentioned ideologically. Can you prove that these five are helping Naxals?
No, 1 second.
Are they promoting ideology of Naxalism?
I want to build on this question. I want to build on this question. Is it okay being in touch with a Naxal?
What is the evidence?
Here is somebody who's picked up the gun against the Indian state. Is it okay being in touch with him?
Being in touch is nothing. They are constitutional sepoys. They are constitutional.
They want to break apart our country.
If you want to call them,
they want a separate. They want an uprising.
They are constitutional Naxals.
What happened? You are right.
Let's look at.
In 3 years, we were not able to file the charge sheet.
I already made that point. My question now is it okay for these activists to have a hotline with Naxals out in the jungles, raising guns against our state, wanting to break apart India? Shoma Chaudhary.
All five, I am having all details about all five.
Shoma Chaudhary.
Arun Parera is an advocate. Arun Parera is an advocate.
But that's what they do in public. What do they do on the side?
Why he is there? Because he was helping the Dalit activist who is behind bar because of Bhima.
No, 1 second. Why aren't you answering my question? Yes. 1 second. Shoma, just respond to my question. Is it okay for these activists to have a hotline with Naxals?
Rahul, first you're using very emotive, overloaded words. You know, there is a different thing about, as I said, civil rights activists who might be in contact. For instance, even people
It's
like...
okay being in contact with the Kashmiri terrorists?
No, Rahul, just hear me out.
No, they want education to be
Sir, just a
provided.
minute. No, I'm not even making that point. Just allow me to speak in a non-emotionally overcharged ways. We don't know whether they have a hotline. We don't know whether they're ideologically helping them. We don't know any of those things. I'm merely making a theoretical point that often civil rights activists who are working in conflict zones are in contact with both sides, the state as well as Naxals, because they are really operating in a conflict zone. Just one second, sir.
No.
Sir, may I finish making a point? May I finish making a point? For instance, Swami Agnivesh, and there are others like that, who have in fact been trying to broker peace talks, or they stay in touch only insofar as being able to keep channels of communication. When you use words like hotline, are they ideologically guided? We need evidence of that. So that's one point. Second point is that Ravindra Kadam, who is the outgoing police commissioner, in fact has categorically said that they found no evidence of Maoist involvement in the Bhima Koregaon violence. The point they made, just one sec, sir. One second, sir.
No, one second. You made that point.
One second.
I want to ask Prakash, one second. Because time is also limited. Is it okay for some of these urban intellectuals to be in touch with Naxals? Is it okay to be in touch with the Kashmiri terrorists? One second. Let's hear from Prakash.
Look, being in touch with Naxals per se is no offense. The point is, what is the objective? Exactly. What is the intention? If the intention is to sort of collaborate with him in something subversive, something which has a direct impact on law and order, which sort of disturbs public order.
No, sir, I disagree. One second, sir. With all respect to the former Director General of Police, here is somebody who wants to break up the Indian state. Yes. Here is somebody who's picked up arms against the Indian Republic. How is it okay being in touch with him? What business do you have being in touch with a Kashmiri terrorist?
But journalists are in touch with Osama.
Maybe I can mainstream him. Maybe I can reform him. Maybe I can mainstream him.
No, but that is...
No, they're trying to take education to them. They're trying to take health service to them.
Just a minute.
Ideologically helping Naxalism, promoting Naxalism, promoting violence, and another helping him to be in the mainstream.
I think the argument that is...
How is it for man to say that they are working for the state? Were they being given certificate by the state that you can go and work for us?
No, sir, you don't need a certificate from the state. The state belongs to all of us. This country and this constitution belongs to me. It does not belong to the party ruling the government, sir.
How do you know what are they doing on ground?
Sir,
one second, Bharat Gupta, one second, please. Bharat Gupta, the point that is made, which I want you to respond to, is that journalists were in touch with Osama bin Laden wanting to do interviews, and therefore if somebody is in touch with the Naxal, so what?
No, look, this is something which is a false presumption. If you want to talk to a so-called enemy or a subversion of the state, you have to do it under public supervision. It's not a private... No, I'm sorry, let me complete.
No, just a minute.
No, it is not...
Jason Burke
no,
is
just
one of
a
the
minute.
most
It is not...
well-known journalists.
Then you carry the rest.
Please allow me to
Then
speak.
you carry the rest.
Sir, please allow
Please
me.
remember.
Please allow me to complete. This is exactly what's happening with the Indian state. Ved Pratap Vaidik goes and meets Hafiz Ali. Hafiz Saeed. Now, are you going to have this kind of thing? I understand that Swami Agnivesh, who in any case says very wrong and incendiary things against the Hindus, I don't know how he is a peace activist. He or many others, if they are going to talk to the so-called enemies of the state, and people may not be so, then the whole thing has to be done under some kind of...
Okay, KTS Tulsi, respond. Final comment before I take a quick break. How can it be okay talking in any form with somebody who's picked up a gun against the Indian state?
That's too broad an assumption. These people are going there, persuading them to believe in democracy.
How do you know?
Just a minute.
I'm saying, Mr. RPC, I don't like this.
Just a minute.
Let him speak, please.
Question is, you are saying just being in touch. If they are in touch, for persuading them that join the democratic process.
How do you know that's what they're doing, sir?
No, I'm not saying that.
No, but you're saying that.
I'm saying that being in touch every time
How do you
is
know
not
they're
an
trying
offense.
to persuade them and not guiding them on what bomb to blow next time?
You also don't know.
I don't know, but neither do you.
Is it by constitutional
I'm saying that
right?
merely being in touch is not a crime.
But why? Is it okay being in touch with the Kashmiri terrorists?
No, of course.
How is it okay being in touch with the Kashmiri terrorists?
There are many people who are trying to bring them over ground. And surrender arms to the people. How do they do that?
Who has given a certificate to these people that they are the reformers?
You were asking for final comments. I'm just saying that two things. One, Mr. Bharat just said that Swami Agnivesh says things wrong about the Hindus. This is the primary premise. Just because
it's not a premise.
Sir, just a minute. Just because
he has abused
just because
on television.
Let us speak.
So
We
I
can't
do not
have a
interrupt
conversation
you.
like this. Let her have a
Sir,
point.
because we don't like what somebody says does not automatically make it anti-constitutional or anti-national. They are well within their rights. There are many things for right that the Hindutva gang says.
I need to take
One
a break.
minute that the Hindutva. Just a minute,
break.
Gaurav.
I'm coming
There
back.
are many things that the Hindutva brigade say which I as a Hindu don't like. I don't ask for them to be arrested instantly because I disagree with them. Number two, people like Jason Burke, who is one of the best known war conflict journalists in the world, does not need state supervision from Donald Trump to be able to go and do his
so on
work.
that note, I take a very quick break. We come back because what we're seeing, are we seeing two different kinds of approaches? One against the Sanatan Sanstha, where 5 members of the Sanstha have been arrested, been picked up with explosives, with arms. The charge against them is that they were part of murder conspiracies, and yet the Sanatan Sanstha for the time being is not being banned. Instead, they're doing press conferences wanting to remove the word secular from the Indian constitution. No action against honchos of the Sanatan Sanstha. On the other hand, we're seeing this clamor for action against urban Naxals, against the PFIR. Is there politics at play? We'll debate that when we come back with part 2 of the India Today newsroom. As this huge debate rages over urban Naxals, half Maoists or public intellectuals, activists, the one thing to look at very closely is, are we seeing politics at play? Are there differing standards that are being seen? On the one side, you've got the Sanatan Sanstha, right-leaning, rather extremist outfit whose members have been arrested as part of murder conspiracies, and yet the Sanstha hasn't been banned. On the other side, you're seeing a growing clamor of action against these urban Naxals, against also organizations like the PFI. So are we seeing differential standards at play? I want to put that question to Gaurav Vallabh. Is this basically about politics?
See, Rahul, try to understand. Yesterday, full day, we were discussing that these people are making a conspiracy against the Prime Minister. Today, we are discussing that they are involved in Bhima Koregaon. And how come in the newsrooms we are having an inputs, whereas the intelligence inputs are not in the should not be out in the public domain? So how come we are getting all sort of letters by that Wilson and all those, and we are discussing that Prime Minister's life is under the threat? If Prime Minister's life is under threat, take the utmost action. We on behalf of Congress Party, I can say that. But problem is that if Mrs. Sudha Bharadwaj is asking or is trying to find out about the killings of tribes in Chhattisgarh in 2007, if Mr. Arun Pereira is contesting or providing a legal aid to the Dalit activist arrested in the Koregaon violence, then what is the Naxalism?
Respond to this.
What is the Naxalism? And
So
what is urban, rural? You see, we are fed up with these words.
You made that point.
Rahul, just a small statement. Just a small statement. There is a difference between two terms. Anti-national and saying that policies of government are not good. If we are saying that the policies are not
a political battle,
farmers, it doesn't
the
mean we are
opposition will ask,
or
how do these threat letters show up on TV before they show up in court?
Ask the police. Ask the police.
No, so there's something wrong with it.
No,
you should also, you believe that there's a question to ask the police?
Yes, and they should be taken to task if they have leaked it.
And tomorrow they won't even stand up in court.
And let me tell you, even a fresh criminal lawyer knows the stage of proving all this comes at the stage of filing a charge sheet when the entire evidence is put. Therefore, proving or not proving at this stage is not within the domain of anybody right now. Mr. Tulsi would agree, he's a seasoned criminal lawyer. This has to come at the stage of a charge sheet.
The CRPC says that there will be secrecy about investigation. The secrecy is being compromised by the state itself.
That I've already said.
No, because RP Singh.
How do you guys compromise the state?
How else will a letter seized from a comrade show up on TV?
You are also responsible for that. It leak has come to you. When your leak has come to you.
No, 1 second. Of course, if a TV channel gets it, it'll run it. But why are you giving it?
No, give me. How do you know we are giving it?
How else will it come if something is only with the police? How else will it reach the media? one second.
Rahul,
Is this politics, RP
How
Singh?
do I even know that what you are leaking is right or wrong?
The question
Because
was,
you are-
the question was asked to be, may I reply?
May I-
It's all in the TV studio. But
Rahul,
only
may I
on-
make
on
a
certain-
point here?
No, because
on
one
certain
second.
stuff.
No,
Please,
one second,
no,
one
please.
second. Because the question is about narrative. Is it a political fight before 2019 of making it seem as if anybody who's anti-Modi or speaking against the government is somehow an urban Naxal, an enemy of the state?
Is it happening the first time? Didn't happen in Congress regime?
See,
Didn't happen
that is
earlier?
the problem.
And can we forget?
Now
can we
you
forget-
say
give me a
from
second,
the
please.
19th
No, can we forget? Can we forget how Chandrababu Naidu escaped? How
This
Buddha,
is-
Buddha,
this
Buddha,
is not
Buddha,
the way
Buddha,
we
No,
should
Gaurav
debate.
Vallabh, one
No,
second.
please,
You
please.
can't shake your head because
Please,
remember that two of these activists were arrested under the UAPA
Yes.
when you were in power.
Rahul, I am saying if there is any evidence against
No, no,
them,
no, no, what
spreading the
evidence was given to
violence,
the court?
spreading the Naxal
No, your
government
ideology,
arrested
they are
them.
behind
Your
bars.
government
I am
arrested
saying
them.
that.
Put them
I
behind
am
bars.
saying that.
You put
that
them behind- you were the one who
if
put
there
them
is
behind
any
bars.
evidence
No, you-
against
no, no,
them,
you were the one who put
spreading
them
the
behind bars.
violence, if there is any evidence against them spreading the violence, spreading the Naxalism ideology, the police and government should take strict actions
So you
against
took
them.
action.
But I am saying
Rahul,
that why you are
No,
spreading
you
rumors?
have to take action.
Every day new rumor comes.
You have
Prime
to take
Minister
action.
is like
Yes, to
today
see
urban
the one question
Naxalism.
the
Day
Congress
after
cannot
tomorrow
run
some
away
road
from.
to them.
The one question the Congress cannot run away from is that the same activists were arrested when the UPA was in power. So they can't be criminals when you were in power. That government did its best to try and convict them. They failed. Now when the BJP
No,
arrests
but
the
why
same
did they
people,
fail? Because the Supreme Court laid down the law very clearly that merely exhorting people to violence is not sedition.
But no.
You have to actively
This is
support
not
them.
about
No, this is not the
Rahul,
Supreme
may
Court.
I-
This is the Supreme Court.
Rahul, may I make a very important point?
Most provocative
No, no,
speeches
no.
don't make it.
Rahul, may I make a very...
This is not what the
Sir, may
Supreme
I
Court
just say
said.
something
Please.
over here? May I say
Please
something over here?
don't misrepresent
Sir,
the
may I say something
order?
here? There are very often bona fide Maoist leaders who are arrested and put in jail, including Maoist Kashmiri militants.
Maoist leaders bona fide, they're terrorists.
No,
Shobha,
one
let's
second.
get this right.
1 second.
Maoist leaders
terrorists
means what? They're
Maoist-
terrorists.
Bona fide.
Just a
Why?
minute.
What's bona fide
No,
about
if you
them?
will allow me
They
to
want to
finish.
break up our country.
Rahul, will you finish letting me? You know, I love this country as much as you. None of us have a copyright on loving this country. There are
Let's not
Maoist
call them
leaders.
bona fide
Just
leaders.
1 second.
They're not bona fide.
Rahul, let me finish. The
No, but why are
reason-
you calling them bona fide
If
leaders?
you allow
Shobha?
me to finish, I'll tell you why I'm saying that.
Okay.
The point I'm making is that when bona fide Maoist terrorists or leaders
Okay.
are arrested, civil society does not speak
This
up
is
for them.
oxymoronish.
Just 1 second, sir.
I mean, they don't
Sir,
gel
sir,
together.
am I
Carry on,
interrupting
carry
you?
on, carry on.
When Maoist terrorists, leaders, whatever you want to call them, I said bona fide because that means they are genuine Maoist leaders are arrested. Civil society does not stand up as it has to speak for them. In this situation, there are people who I said who have in fact been speaking for constitutional values. There is no history of Sudha Bhardwaj and others inciting violence. We must see evidence of that because they have a long history to the contrary. I will give Binayak Sen's example. Worked for 30 years in Chhattisgarh, worked with the government for the poorest of the poor for 30 years. When he started questioning the government on the Salva Juram, in fact under the Congress government, he was suddenly declared an enemy
let
of the
Arun
state.
Anand
Just one,
respond.
10 seconds.
Some of
Rahul,
these people have taken
Rahul, 10
public
seconds.
positions which are contrary to that of the government, right? In Chhattisgarh, Sudha Bhardwaj, for example, is working closely with tribals at a time when land acquisition is a hot button issue. She's on the side of the tribals against the state, not allowing for tribals' land to be taken away. Obviously, the government doesn't like that.
See, Rahul, first and foremost thing is that we have to understand that urban Naxalism is a real threat, one. Second is providing moral and ideological support and being collaborative with them. The lines get blurred very easily. And ultimately it is upon the law enforcement agencies to prove that whether it was a collaborative effort or whether it was an ideological or moral support. Personally, I am not even in favor of providing ideological or moral support to Naxalites because ultimately their philosophy is based on violence and they want to break India, as you have
No, but I
said.
hope there's nobody who thinks over here that providing ideological support to Naxals is okay. Is there anyone who holds that point of view?
No, we are saying you have to show evidence of that.
It does not amount to sedition merely to support some cause. Which
To support a cause
Yes.
which wants that India be broken up.
So,
How can that be okay? You have to support it in any fashion, Mr.
But
Tulsi. I'm shocked that you say
merely exhorting them without any
can I
arms
come in
does
here?
not amount to sedition.
Sir,
Supreme
no,
Court
can I
has said
come
that.
in here?
Can I
this
come
How
in
can
here?
you forget Kher Singh then? Here he was only giving him support to the
just a minute,
Mrs. Gandhi.
please.
He was not involved in the killing of Mrs. Gandhi.
One
That is
minute.
conspiracy.
No, not conspiracy.
That is what here.
What you
Section applied.
Conspiracy.
Section applied here is also
Sir,
One
conspiracy.
second,
there is a
Bharat Gupt,
distinction.
please.
Yes.
Bharat Gupt.
Section applied is
I
also
think
conspiracy here.
Mr.
No.
Tulsi is under a grievous error. Look, if I say break up India into 5 parts and I give the most logical reasons, the state has every right and every law to try me as a traitor. It's plain and simple. If I go into
All right.
why was just a minute, sir. Why were people arrested by the British? Why was Shri Aurobindo arrested when
No,
he
no,
asked
one
for
second. Why are you talking about what the British did? How does that have anything to do with what's happening right now?
Because you are still
that was an
following the
imperial
same
power.
law.
May I
No,
make
no,
it-
you are following the
Actually,
same
there's
law.
a distinction, sir, in everything that you're
It is
saying.
against the state when
Supreme
you
Court
want to
has
know.
ruled.
One second.
The Supreme Court has ruled that to have some political views which are not in consonance with the ruling government is not a crime.
No, I know.
But
I look at what
exhorting to
Justice
violence,
Chandrachud
exhorting to
Justice
violence.
Chandrachud said just today
Sir, just
that
a minute.
dissent is the safety ball of this democracy. If you curb dissent, this pressure valve will burst. Let there be no dispute. There must be space for dissent. You can have a contrarian point of view. You don't need to vote for the government in power and you can still be allowed to exist as a citizen. I think that really, Mr. Tulsi, is at the core of
That's
the
right.
argument
That's
today.
right. And I want to tell you the cases which I myself did as Additional Solicitor General. People delivered speeches for Khalistan. They delivered speeches to 500 people. Nobody is armed. Even the speaker is not armed. But they say that if he is merely advocating orally and not providing weapons or saying that come with weapons, I will lead you.
I'm sorry, sir.
That's a different thing.
He's misquoting
But-
again. He's misquoting again. Sir, I've gone through the judgment personally. And because I'm involved with the Punjab issue, it's not that way.
When was this judgment given?
Sir, I don't...
When was
I
this
don't-
judgment
sir,
given?
You could be better on the date of judgment, but it's not that way
This
at all.
judgment is of
It's not that
94.
way. I mean, it means anyone can pick up the mic and start speaking in the government.
Yes.
So I'm out of time on this debate.
I'll say that
All
let's
our
make
guests
a
have
state.
spoken. Gaurav, like 10 seconds, I'm out of time.
Anyone can make the
See,
state.
we
Yes.
strongly disagree
No,
with
this-
extreme right views, extreme left views, but it doesn't mean that we should stop people to share their views.
Prakash
Yes,
Singh,
but you
10
can't
seconds.
share the
10
idea
seconds,
that
please.
India
Prakash
should be
Singh.
broken.
Yeah, I am against that. Who said
Yes,
that?
that's
Prakash
what
Singh,
Tulsi is saying.
Prakash Singh.
No,
That's
I'm
what
saying
he's
merely saying is not enough.
Prakash
No,
Singh.
it is enough.
It's not enough. That's what the
Naxals-
Supreme Court
10
says.
seconds.
I
Naxals-
disagree about
Sorry,
the
may I-
interpretation.
You can
Let
disagree.
Prakash Singh speak,
About the
please.
interpretation.
The Naxals are fighting the battle against Indian state on 2 fronts. One is armed guerrilla warfare through People's Liberation Guerrilla Army, trying to demolish the Indian state. The other is through these intellectuals, doctors, engineers, lawyers, students. And this battle is being fought on the intellectual front with a view to, some theoreticians call it the 4th generation warfare. When you destroy a state without fighting, you destroy it from within by creating fissures, by creating schisms, by creating divisions. That is where the role of these people comes in.
Okay.
Now, whether they have done anything overt or covert, which amounts to destroying, weakening, or subverting the Indian state, that is a matter of
Okay,
investigation.
I'll let that be the last word on the show. The one thing that I'm very clear about is that no matter what your own political ideological position, the charge needs to be proven in a court of law. It's not enough to call them a half Maoist or an urban Naxal. The charge needs to be proven in a court of law through evidence. It's not like you don't like their faces, don't like their politics, don't like what they say or what they stand for, and therefore lock them up. That's not okay. If they are indeed in touch with guiding, motivating, financing, and arming terrorists, then of course come with the full force of the law. If not, then you've made a big mistake. We'll track this story. We won't take sides. I want to thank all our guests for joining us on the India Today Roundtable. Thank you very much. I'll slip into a break. I'll have more for you when we come back on the other side. Stay with us.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you would love to.